It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Wacky Wednesday, and it's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to your favorite sports show, ZiFM Sport. And this is a crucial week for Zimbabwe football, especially for the Warriors, with back-to-back qualifiers versus the Zebras of Botswana and Zambia's Chipolo Polo. Lots of players are missing, the likes of Marshall Munetsi, Kadewere, Kama Billiot, Marvelous Nakamba of Aston Villa in the Premier League. He is not available. But for the Warriors that are here, the ones that will put on the yellow jumper of Zimbabwe to do business, their coach Zdravko Lloris has rallied them to actually believe that they can get the job done even without the missing regular key players. We'll also get to hear the thoughts of Barry Menandi, who's going to pick for us the starting 11 for the encounter versus Botswana in Francistown. The rest of the team is here, and it includes a former Warriors attacker Alois Munjira, Chris Midzi, our producer is Sean Tafirenyika, and my name is Mike Madoda. Now, earlier this afternoon, there were rumors flying around about the travel arrangements of the Warriors. How were they getting to Francistown for this encounter? It's a bit of a fiasco. It's madness. It's not how to manage the team. A classic case. And that is one of the things that we'll be discussing with the team here, and would also want to hear from you on Twitter and Facebook.
International sports news, always a part of the show, and we'll deliver that when we take you around the world in 60, starting off in India, where skipper Virat Kohli said yesterday's 66-run win over England was one of the sweetest after his bowlers hit back following a batting onslaught in the first one-day international. In news from South Africa, the British and Irish Lions tour of South Africa is set to go ahead, but there may be schedule changes. And in the United States, Brandon Ingram scored 36 points and Zion Williamson added 27 as the host New Orleans Pelicans routed the depleted LA Lakers 128-111.
We'll take our player of the day. Then it's time for the beautiful game where South African international Percy Tau is feeling confident he and wants revenge on Ghana ahead of the upcoming 2022 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier tomorrow. In European leagues update, Manchester United are reportedly considering a potential transfer deal for Tottenham goalkeeper Hugo Lloris at the end of the season. And Eric Garcia is reportedly set to sign a 5-year deal at Barcelona, with the Manchester City centre-back unwilling to sign a new contract at the Etihad. All of that and so much more to look forward to on this wacky Wednesday edition of ZiFM Sport. Something Soweto with the Muzansi Youth Choir. This is the Danko, the medley.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe.
We want to hear from you at ZiFM Sport. Get in touch with us on Twitter. Follow and interact with at ZiFM Sport. You can also simply search for us by name: Chris Midzi, Alois Munjira, Sean Tafirenyika, Mike Madoda, and Barry Menandi. We'll be happy to talk sport, local as well as international. Now, there is a distinct football flavor on this evening's show. If you love your football, especially local football, you're going to have your feel. And we'll start with the Warriors. Two crucial back-to-back qualifiers versus Botswana and Zambia. And the coach, Zdravko Lloris, has rallied his charges ahead of tomorrow's crucial AFCON qualifier versus Botswana in Francistown, saying that they have to believe they can get the job done even without some regular key players. Let's take a look at the players who are in camp. The Warriors squad is made up of Ariel Sibanda, Taubet Shumba, Victor Kamuka, Takudzwa Chimwemwe, Jimmy Dzingai, Tanaka Chinyahara, Kudakwashe Mahachi, Tabani Kamsoko. Good to see him back in the Warriors fold. The skipper, Knowledge Musona, Tafadzwa Rusike, last Jesse, plying his trade in Sudan. Perfect Chikwende, he returns to Zimbabwe, having dished FC Platinum for Simba Sports Club. Ovidi Karuru is there, as is Evans at Rusike. Terence Zukamanja, the Buccaneer, Martin Mapisa, Teenage Hadebe, Alec Mudimu, Romario Matova, Butolezwe Nguve, and of course the players who are yet to arrive in camp but have been called up, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that they will arrive, are Tendai Jirira, Marshall Munetsi, as well as Tinotenda Kadawere. Now let's hear from the Warriors coach Logarusic and the Warriors captain Knowledge Musona, who are feeling very confident ahead of the tie.
All of those players, usually they want to play for their country. You can see the happiness, you can see the positive energy when they came here. That's what is giving me courage. You can see they are coming, they are ready, they want to play, they are waiting, and that's what is giving me energy. I'm not seeing fear. We are strong. Zimbabwe is strong.
Z. We have to realize that this is a qualification game. So sometimes, no matter how you play, the result is the most important. We might not have some of the key players, but we have the quality to win a game and to come up with a positive result. So sometimes it's all about hard work.
Z. Well, Alois, the absence of key players, important players, doesn't seem to have dampened the spirits of both coach and captain. They're confident.
Yeah, I'm happy that they're confident, but I'm disappointed that we didn't manage to actually get all our players in camp. I'm not sure what the reason is. We still have to hear. But I would have loved us to go to Botswana with a full-strength squad so that we can actually do away with Botswana and steal our qualification straight away. It's not going to be easy against Zambia in Zimbabwe, although we are home, because Zambia has always been a dodgy side. They've always given us problems, So I was hoping that we just go and do the job in Botswana so that we don't hold our calculators when we play against Zambia and watch the other games. So unfortunately, it's not so. But as much as they are confident, I am not happy. I'm not happy about it, because I would have loved to see us have Tino Kadewere and Masha Munez, even with Tendai Jirira as well, because we are struggling to have a left back there, and he could have fitted in very well.
Well, Alois, I want to stick with you because you seem not to share the confidence of Logarusic and Musona. When you look at those names, and I reeled off name after name of the guys who are in the Warriors camp, you think those players can't get the job done?
No, they can get the job done, is possible, but you know what? The confidence that I would have had was going to be a notch higher if we had Masha Munez in that team, if we had Tino Kadewere in that team, if we had all the players, if we had Jirira in that team. I would have been much more confident about it, because this is a game that we just feel like we just need to overhaul them. We just need to go all over them. But with the team, they can, yes, but there is some doubt about it, because these are new players that are also coming in. With Tino Kadewere and Masha Munez, they are already they were already in the team. That groove would have just continued, unlike having a new set of players completely together. So I would have loved a continuity whereby we've got more players who have played together for some time, so that we can just go and overrun Botswana.
Chris, the disruptions caused by COVID and all the travel restrictions, etc., are not being felt by Zimbabwe alone. If you take a look at the Zebras of Botswana, they too will be missing as many as 3 critical players for their plans and their designs to keep their hopes of qualification alive.
Yeah, in as much as we can complain and we don't have some of our key players, we're going up against a team that's also facing the same thing. They have a star duo, Kabelo Siakayeng and Tumisang Urebunye. They were barred from traveling for the AFCON qualifiers against Zimbabwe and Algeria as well. So they're facing the same depletion, and this is their star duo. But it's not necessarily going to give us confidence, because we've also got dents in terms of some of our star players.
They'll also, of course, be missing Zambia-based midfielder Motusi Cooper, who is suspended after accumulating 3 yellow cards in the qualifier. So 3 key players missing for Botswana. Now, Zimbabwe has got a lot more than 3 key players, Barry, and that must be giving the brains trust at the Warriors a bit of a headache as to how do we line up when we take on Botswana in Francistown. You know, we've already talked about Karma Billiot. He's missing. Marshall Monetsi and Kadewere might only be available for the Zambia game, probably not for this Botswana game. We got other players who are missing. Now, if you had to be in Logarisic's shoes, how would you have the Warriors line up, Barry, to take on the Zebras of Botswana?
All right. Well, I'm glad I'm not in Logarisic's shoes, firstly, because it's not an easy task at all. But I think the playing system we'll go for is a 4-2-3-1 with Tolbert Shumba in goal, Takuzwa Chimwemwe at right back, Romario Matova playing at left back, and that's been a tough spot to fill. The centre backs, thankfully, are the partnership that is tried and trusted out of Turkey, both of them, Alec Mundimu and Teenage Khadebe. And then we'll play a double pivot in Tabani Kamsoko and Butelezo Ncube. Then a 3 in front of them in midfield, that is Ovidi Karuru, Knowledge Musona and Kudama Hachi, and then Evans Rusike playing as the lone striker up front. When we have the ball, it'll look more like a 4-1-1 with Knowledge Musona playing more as a 10 when we are in possession.
No place for Perfect Chikwende. I mean, lots of fans, Barry, excited when Perfect Chikwende was called up to the Warriors fold. We have seen what he can do with FC Platinum. You know, he was the star player. And we've seen some video footage as well that's come out of Tanzania, where we have seen Chikwende show the Tanzanians that they invested well in one of the most exciting prospects coming out of Zimbabwe. No place for him in that starting 11?
Perfect Chikwende will definitely get a game. I think he will replace either one of Ovidi Karuru or Kudama Bahachi. But in the starting lineup, I think the starting 11 is pretty strong. There was a consideration to put Perfect Chikwende as the left back. You know that he would play certainly one half of football under Norman Mapeza at FC Platinum in the left back position, and then be pushed up front a little further up the field come the second half. So he knows that position. But I think we need to be that defensive solidity. We need a naturalized player in that position. So that's why we've gone for Romario Matoa as opposed to Perfect Chikwende.
Alois, you played as an attacker all your life and a pretty prolific goal scorer at that. Are you concerned with Barry's selection that doesn't have a conventional target man, a conventional number 9? He's gone with Evans Rusike to lead the line, but we know Evans Rusike more as an attacker rather than an all-and-out striker. What are your thoughts on the attacking options that, first of all, Barry has thrown in his starting 11, and then those that are available to Logarisic for tomorrow's encounter?
Yeah, Mike, I agree with Barry's selection. Except for I'm just worried about the left back position because he is a rookie. You know, Romario Matova, he hasn't played. I don't know what about his nerves, if he's gonna hold his nerves well. You know, probably I would have gone, if I had seen that situation, I would have gone for veteran players. You know, like what do you call Costa Namoinesu or Onisimo Basera, just call him to plug in the gap for this particular game so that we can move on and go over Botswana. And I agree with you as well. Up front, Perfect Chikwende, I would have included him. I would have taken out Evans Rusike and used Knowledge Msona as the out-and-out striker. You know, one thing that we have failed to understand about Knowledge is a prolific goal scorer. Give him a chance, he will tag them in. So why don't we deploy him in that particular position, not to work so hard in midfield to create chances for others? Let him stay up there and play Perfect Chikwende just behind. We've seen Perfect Chikwende in those videos. You've said he is quite a very useful player, skillful. He can dribble, he can create chances as well for teammates. Play Knowledge up front, play Perfect Chikwende just behind Knowledge Msona. I think that would have worked for me because Rusike has not been in top form for me for some time now, for a lot of time, and I think that even SuperSporter might just offload him in the coming season as well.
And Chris, just as we wrap up here, I know Barry's selection is probably the selection that the majority of Zimbabweans, the majority of pundits would probably go with, barring maybe just one or two positions. But you'd like to think that at least 8 or 9 players there pick themselves. So we would think. But Lloris has surprised us in times gone past, where he's gone against conventional wisdom, conventional football knowledge, and against the pedigree of the players to pick his own players, which is what we saw during his selection of the squad that went to Chan and during the teams that played at Chan. So could we be set for surprise selections from Lloris?
Oh, 100%. I think if we're to expect anything, it's surprises. We should expect surprises from Lloris. I think he's still at a place where he's trying to experiment with these teams instead of leaning, first of all, on conventional knowledge, like you mentioned, but also on the brain's trust that he has in terms of his assistant coaches. Those coaches know the players, they track the players. Hopefully he's been tracking the players as well. And we're not going to have any dramatic surprises, but I wouldn't put it past him to make some selections that we would question and possibly change them even in the second half, after as soon as he's seen, okay, you know what, this doesn't necessarily work, let's revert to what either the assistant coaches had suggested or what the players had suggested. So we're in for surprises, definitely. Hopefully they're good ones.
And just to add to that, I think that those surprises, it may even occur in the goalkeeping department. That's one of the brave choices I would have made, where I would have thrown in Martin Mapisa right from the start. But in this instance, I think Loga is going to go with what he knows. And what he knows is Talbot Shumba of Nkana FC, he's played in that position before. He started him in one of his teams. So likelihood Martin Mapisa might have to wait a little bit longer for his start.
Okay, Lloris' tip to go with what he knows. And the question is, what does he know of our Warriors? We wait to see who will line up for Zimbabwe when they take on the Zebras of Botswana in Francistown. Pity travel isn't allowed, and an even bigger pity is that no fans will be allowed into the stadium, because that would have been home away from home with the proximity to Bulawayo and the many Zimbabweans that are resident in the northern part of Botswana. What else do we know? We know that Zimbabwe can seal qualification if they get a win versus Botswana, and Zambia fail to get a result versus Algeria. We could actually do the business tomorrow evening, and we wish the Warriors all the best in that encounter. From all of us at ZiFM Sport, go Warriors, go! Baya Wabaya.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference.
Let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting off with rugby, where the Zimbabwe Rugby Union has met stakeholders in Bulawayo to find out their state of preparedness ahead of the resumption of the game in the city. After meeting with clubs, coaches, administrators and schools in the province to discuss various options to restart, ZRU Vice President Martin Shone is quoted as saying, "We have a couple of options that we are looking at, and we want to hear from our stakeholders on their position first. Clubs are saying they don't have the money to carry out the tests or buy vaccines. We will have to come in and assist as a union." In swimming news, competition in Bulawayo is set for a return with the provincial championship penciled for this weekend. Bulawayo Amateur Swimming Association applied to the Sports and Recreation Commission to hold the events following the relaxation of COVID-19 regulations. Initially, the provincials had been scheduled for January, but a surge in coronavirus cases saw the lockdown being escalated, with sport being put on hold. BASA chairperson Noctula Ciprianos said they're hoping to select the team to take part in the nationals this week. And we'll finish off with athletics news, where one of the country's biggest funeral service providers, Nyaladzo Group, has launched an annual sporting event in the second largest urban settlement in Makoni district in Manicaland province, Nyazura. Dubbed Nyazura Marathon, the proceeds will be channeled towards developmental projects along the route. The initiative has been received with much excitement by the villagers living along the Nyazura Chivu Road.
Hi, this is Mike Madura, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
As we said at the top of the show today, we're discussing the Warriors, and now it's time to talk logistics. How is the team getting out to Botswana? The game is in Francistown. As far as we know, Michael, there are no flights directly into Francistown, so the team has been routed all over the place just to get to the game. We understand that they're catching a flight out of a quarter flight out of Robert Mugabe International Airport into Gaborone, and then we'll catch a bus all the way to Francistown. It's going to be a long journey for the players, surely.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. And from what I understand, the flight from Robert Mugabe International Airport is actually headed for OR Tambo. That's at least where they were catching the connecting flight into Seretse Khama International Airport in Gaborone. So, and then they're going to have to leg it out, as it were, on a bus from Gaborone to Francistown, which is almost an equal distance as Harare is to Bulawayo. So it's about 436 kilometers. Now, when you take that into consideration, Barry, first of all, let's rewind and go back to when the plans were being made for camp. We should have known that, first of all, the game is going to be played in Francistown, which I think would have then perhaps influenced a decision by ZiFM to actually have the national team camp out in Bulawayo rather than camping in Harare, because we would have been literally 190 kilometers away from Francistown with the border in between. Our players who are based in South Africa would have caught flights out of Johannesburg into Bulawayo. Those are fully operational. Our locally based players would have done the same. Our players coming from East Africa would have also done the same. They would have been able to get to Bulawayo. Now, let's forgive them for that oversight, that you could have actually had camp in Bulawayo and then just made the short drive from Bulawayo into Francistown. We'll forgive them for that. But having held camp in Harare, would it not have been more prudent, rather than the two-legged flight into Botswana, why not just fly into Bulawayo and then get a hired coach from Bulawayo and drive to Francistown, which would be a 2.5-3-hour journey tops, including the stopover at Plumtree border post and Ramokhwebane, the other side of our border, which would have made it a shorter journey than for us to fly, first of all, into OR Tambo and then fly into Seretse Khama. And then from Seretse Khama, we're having to drive to Francistown, which is a 5-hour journey by bus.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit difficult to understand, Alois, and you tend to think to yourself that I don't think people apply their minds to actually seeing how we can travel. Look, travel in Africa generally is difficult, and it's difficult to get to anywhere.
Not in this part of Africa, Barry. Sorry, I'm going to have to interject. Not in this part of Africa. This part of Africa, travel should actually be an absolute joy. Whenever you come to nations like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Botswana, it's fantastic. This is not Central Africa. This is not Congo Brazzaville. This is easy.
So perhaps, Alois, people could have applied their minds a little bit more to some of the options that Mike is pointing out, which seem quite simple.
Yeah, but when you look at this situation, conventionally it was simpler to fly into Botswana, get a bus, get a coach. We've got a lot of luxury coaches in Zimbabwe. They hire one of them and drive across into Botswana. It's very easy, and better still, when it's the national team, we are about to qualify. What does it do to Zimbabwe sports tourism, to tourism in general in Zimbabwe, for Zimbabwe to qualify for the AFCON? It's a national issue. For me, I would have thought, here we go. We've got a national airliner. It takes about 35-40 minutes to fly into Francistown. Why don't we charter Air Zimbabwe? Fly the guys in, comes back within 2 hours, is back in the Harare, and continue with these domestic flights. Then after the game, go and fetch the guys and bring them here. It's just 25 minutes to Bulawayo. So if you're flying direct, another 200 kilometers, it will take about 40 minutes maximum to go there.
Yeah.
It's a national cause, big match. Important match for Zimbabwe. Get the national airliner to fly those guys in, come back and continue with your routes domestically, then go and fetch them after the match. For me, it's simple as that, the national cause.
And just in the last 5 minutes, Chris, we've discussed options aplenty that could have been exploited. That would have not only, and what we're trying not to do is we're not trying to just say that there's another way to do something. But I think the consideration is around the players and their state of preparedness, their mental state and their physical state to deliver a result. Because ultimately, right now, we need that result. We need a win so that hopefully we can qualify with a game to spare, and then the Zambia game becomes a celebration more so than being a must-win game. So with those 5 minutes, we've discussed options. How come these two options were not discussed at ZiFM House?
It's a simple lack of will, let's put it that way, because it's the same discussion that we had a couple of days ago about where the players were training. There is almost a disregard for player welfare in terms of the national setup, because these players are expected to continue to perform in absolutely ridiculous circumstances. If you're not getting great training, if you're on multiple journeys to reach one destination, are you in the right physical and mental state in order for you to perform at your best? We are not treating our players like the athletes that they are. And for me, it's a little bit disrespectful to still ask a skilled personnel, which is what these people are, to perform under these conditions.
And to add to the lack of will that Chris is talking about, I also want to talk about a knowledge gap, Barry. You can't do a job that you can't do. And by that I mean, if you have never done logistics at this level, if you don't know what it entails, what it involves, you cannot do the job. Now, if you can't do the job, at least put your hand up and say, you know what, we're going to use a travel agent, okay, who's going to plan our trips for us, and we're going to pay for the service. Don't pretend that you can do the job when you can't do the job. Outsource to people who do that day to day and make a living from doing that. You and I, Barry, have been on rugby tours into South Africa where the logistics have involved sometimes up to 100, 120 people, and yet they've been flawless, they've been smooth, and they've all been done by a travel agent. It's high time that ZiFM started deferring things where they don't have the skills and the knowledge to people that can actually get the job done and get it done professionally. They should just be handing a list. The general manager of the Warriors should be going over to a travel agent and saying, right, these are our Warriors, okay, who are based outside of the country. This is where they are. How do we get them here? And then secondly, we need to get into Francistown. How do we do it? How much is it going to cost? And they pay for it. Why? Because CAF and FIFA actually provide the funding for that.
For those things,
yes. So there's money that supports this. And so when we talk about chartering Air Zimbabwe, going to Bulawayo and then driving across in a hired bus, that's not just stuff that's in the air. It's stuff
can
that
I just
actually
jump in,
can
Barry?
be done. But at this stage, I worry.
Can I just jump in and say, remember during the CAF Champions League, CAF said it was availing $50,000 to clubs to fulfill their fixtures. What more of national teams? A prime tournament like AFCON. Come on, there's something that's happening and communication that's happening behind the scenes and
that
money that's exchanging hands that we don't know about, and these guys are not willing to talk about because they want to misuse that money. And it's high time that Zimbabwe football and those followers of Zimbabwe football woke up to what's happening behind the scenes.
At this rate, our Warriors arrive in Francistown late this evening. Will have a chance to sleep over, and then at 6 p.m. tomorrow must do duty. Remember, match day is tomorrow, so there won't be an opportunity for a loosening up training session or whatever the case may be. They might be able to go and do a bit of a run in the morning, but that is not ideal. Right now, we haven't considered the footballing aspects, the sporting aspects of our travel itinerary. So the logistics are far from ideal. Around the World in 60 is next.
Hi, my name is Ovidi Karuru, Zimbabwean player. You are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Z, a
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in India, where skipper Virat Kohli said yesterday's 66-run win over England was one of the sweetest after his bowlers hit back following a batting onslaught in the first one-day international. Chasing 318 for victory, the tourists were bowled out for 251 in 42.1 overs, despite Johnny Bairstow's 94 and his opening stand of 135 with Jason Roy to trail the three-match series 1-0. Shikhar Dhawan hit 98 while KL Rahul 62 not out and Krunal Pandya unbeaten 58 off 31 balls steered the hosts to 317 for 5 after being put into bat first. We'll head over to South Africa, where the British and Irish Lions tour of South Africa is set to go ahead, but there may be schedule changes. This is the preference of the Lions board and confirmed in meetings with SA Rugby. After reviewing information relating to the various contingency scenarios being considered, I can confirm that the board's intended position is for the tour to go ahead as scheduled in South Africa in 2021. That was Jason Leonard, the chairperson of the British and Irish Lions. We'll touch down in the United States, where Brandon Ingram scored 36 points and Zion Williamson added 27 as the host New Orleans Pelicans routed the depleted LA Lakers 128 to 111. Nikhil Alexander-Walker scored 18 points. Kira Lewis Jr. had 16. Jackson Hayes had 15 and Steven Adams scored 12 as the Pelicans ended a 7-game losing streak against the Lakers.
Hi, my name is Ruruni Shamba, Mytoria's super striker. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. The beating drum. The roaring fans. Take a ride on the wild side with the Africa Report on ZiFM Sport.
The business end of the AFCON qualifiers has seen lots and lots of matches being played, or at least scheduled to be played, across the continent. And so the Africa Report is front and center in the beautiful game. South Africa international Percy Tau is feeling confident and he wants revenge on Ghana ahead of the upcoming 2022 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier tomorrow. The two African giants are set to meet at Soccer City in their penultimate Group C match, with the Black Stars having defeated Bafana 2-0 in the reverse fixture in Ghana in November 2019. My goodness, this has been one hell of a long campaign, hasn't it, Barry? I mean, we're talking about Percy Tau wanting revenge for a fixture that was played in November 2019. Now, Percy Tau himself will be itching for action because he's been something of a peripheral figure at Brighton in the English Premier League, and he'll be wanting to showcase his ability, his undoubted talent, when he lines up for South Africa versus Ghana.
He absolutely would. There was no lack of motivation whatsoever. And just going back to the fact that you said this has been a very long campaign, it's a bit like a kung fu movie where Percy Tau is seeking revenge for something that took place ages ago, and that's November 2019. Percy Tau arriving at Brighton and Hove Albion, they've been looking for a place for him. They started him out on the sides and he did well there, and then we saw him played even as a 10 and also did moderately well. So he'll want to show that he's got the class and quality to do the job in the Bafana jersey. So he's not lacking in motivation in any way. And of course, as he points out, he wants to right some wrongs that took place in November 2019, and he'll be the leading light. He'll be the central cog in this Bafana lineup.
Well, Bafana have done very well in this qualification campaign. They are sitting level on points with the Black Stars of Ghana. 9 points they have from their 4 matches played. And of course, with the two going head-to-head, the result of this game, Alois will be critical in both of them qualifying, because Sudan is just 3 points behind, and Sudan are playing Sao Tome and Principe, and you would fancy Sudan perhaps to get the job done. So at the end of this qualification round, this particular round of matches, Sudan could well have 9, meaning that either South Africa or Ghana will be under pressure, if not both, if they draw.
Yes, Mike, I actually think that they will be in a better position if they draw. Both of them, they will stand a better chance, because any one of them that loses out is in trouble. You know, a draw for them will be better. They will still have to live for another day. But if they lose, if any of them loses, then it becomes a problem. That's why I might just believe that it might just not be an all-out attack match where both teams will know that a draw will keep them still 1 point ahead of the other teams that are chasing them, so that they can actually cash on their place there. Because if they just go all out and then lose, then they get overtaken, then it's going to be a mountain to climb. It will be a do or die affair towards the end of the matches. But like I said, I think that South Africa will fancy their chances of beating Ghana. But it's because Ghana at the moment, they are not at the highest point of their game. Ghana used to be very fearsome, but at this moment in time, they are beatable. They can be beaten. Unfortunately, South Africa's best player at the moment is Pesitao, who is not having game time at his club and might not be firing at the best of his ability. So we'll wait and see. But a good result for South Africa will be a win. But a draw, I think they can still take it home.
Okay, let's take a look at the other groups in the AFCON qualification campaigns and some of the fixtures to expect. Group D, Gabon versus the Democratic Republic of Congo, Gambia versus Angola. As things stand, Gambia and Gabon lead the way with 7 points. DR Congo have got 6 points, and Angola, my goodness, they've fallen on hard times. They just have the solitary point in that group. Group G, the Comoros will take on Togo, whilst Kenya will take on Egypt. Chris, pleasantly surprised to see some of the minnows, as it were, some of the nations that would not normally consider, like the Comoros, who are in second place behind Egypt, level on points actually with Mo Salah's team, and above the likes of Kenya and Togo. And then even if you also look at Group J, you've got Equatorial Guinea sitting ahead of Tanzania and Libya. Are you pleasantly surprised with some of these minnows now rising up and performing when it counts?
Yeah, I think it's just testament to the fact that football on the continent is constantly evolving. People are developing their players, they're developing their institutions, and it's going to pop up in scenarios like this, where even in a group against teams like Egypt and Kenya, the Comoros is doing well. So it's just a result of that continued growth, and it's fantastic to see because it adds a new flavor, as it were, to the different groups to have these almost new teams that are coming up.
And the results could go their way, and if that happened, they could actually be sitting on top of Group G heading into the final encounter, because Egypt are away to Kenya, and whilst the Comoros take on bottom of the table Togo. In Group J, Libya will take on Tunisia in an all North African affair, whilst Equatorial Guinea will take on Tanzania. Tanzania have just got 4 points and are sitting in third in that group. One would have expected better from a side that's boasting the talents of Simba Stars and Yanga. Simba Stars doing well in the CAF Champions League.
All right, let's go into England, into the Premier League, where Manchester United are reportedly considering a potential transfer deal for Tottenham goalkeeper Hugo Lloris at the end of the season. The long-serving Spurs keeper hasn't exactly looked at his best recently, but is being linked as a surprise possible target by French outlet L'Equipe. That's an interesting one, Alois, in the sense that, for me, I think, yes, Manchester United needs to bolster, but is the goalkeeping department really the area they should be looking at first?
Yes. For me, yes, that's the first point, the first port of call. They needed that. They need a goalkeeper that can help the likes of Maguire to get organized, because you can tell that there is no organization at all. They don't have a stalwart goalkeeper who can actually stand there and be experienced enough to actually hold the defenders around and say, stay here, stay there. We had Van Dissar, we had Peter Schmeichel. Those were like those big goalkeepers that are lacking at Manchester. Yes, De Gea was a very good goalkeeper with his time because he was very good at serving, but he was very bad at organizing. I think it's high time that Manchester United get a goalkeeper in the mold of Van Dissar, in the mold of Peter Schmeichel, who is a standout goalkeeper. And Hugo Lloris fits that. He is a French international. He is an experienced goalkeeper. He can come in and do a job there. Because for me, I've always said, for the past 2 seasons, De Gea has costed a lot of points for Manchester United, and it's high time that Manchester United get a goalkeeper. Probably Lloris is not the best of the goalkeepers that we can get, but he is still good enough. I would have said Black or something like that from Spain could have been a better choice.
Chris, is De Gea not a victim of possibly maybe people just not liking his face or whatever the case may be? But in truth, before he got injured, the man was doing a job, and Manchester United was on a good run of results, as well as maintaining quite a few clean sheets. Why the disdain for David De Gea?
I think David De Gea becomes a scapegoat a lot of the times. When it comes to that defense, yes, we know that the goalkeeper is, responsible for organizing that defense, like Alois was talking about. But when you have people like Maguire as part of the defense, when you take a look at some of those players, they're not necessarily the people who should be in those positions in the first place. Take a look at De Gea's performances when he plays for his home country. He plays incredibly well. Why? Because there's an experienced defense that is there in front of him, and he doesn't look like a bad goalkeeper when he plays at national level. So that should point you to the fact that it's not necessarily the goalkeeping department itself, but it's also those defenders that are right in front of him. And for people, honestly, like Maguire, no one is organizing Maguire and getting good performances out of him.
Mike, it's almost a lateral movement, isn't it? Because if you're getting Hugo Lloris, you might as well keep David De Gea, especially when you've got a young goalkeeper like Dean Henderson coming through the ranks, who is also a shot stopper. So why the effort to try and get Hugo Lloris?
I'm going to try and strike a middle ground between Alois and Chris. And the middle ground is simply this. Number one, I don't think Hugo Lloris is the type of keeper that Manchester United needs to invest in on the simple basis that they're going to have to replace him after 2 years. He's now entered the twilight of his career. So if you're going to try and bring in a shot stopper, why not go for one of the prominent goalkeepers in the world? Now, talking about the prominent goalkeepers in the world, there are 5 goalkeepers that you talk of in world football. You've got Manuel Neuer and Ter Stegen, the 2 Germans. You've got Alisson at Liverpool. You get Ederson at Man City. And then you've got Jan Oblak, who's at Atletico Madrid. We all know that Jan Oblak is not going to cost anything less than a world record amount for a goalkeeper. So you're looking at 80 million pounds plus. Now, Manchester United have got to make the decision. Do they want to be investing 80 million pounds in the goalkeeping position when they already have a David De Gea, who Chris is talking about suffering a crisis of confidence, not because he doesn't have the ability, but because he doesn't have the confidence in the defenders around him. And I can see why, because when you take a look at the error-strewn and error-prone performances of Maguire, of Lindelof, some goalkeepers just don't have the personality to be a Buffon, to be a Casillas. They are not organizers. They need to be organized themselves. And that's where you need perhaps the experience in the centre-back positions and someone who can come in and play that role. I would look to Man United investing that money in other positions, because I don't think the defence right now for United, I think United would play more offensive football if they freed up one of the holding midfielders, because they're happy to play 2 holding midfielders to protect the 2 centre-backs that they have.
Centre-backs,
they can't trust them. So they're having to alter their approach because they can't trust Maguire. They can't trust Lindelof to do their jobs. Why not look for someone, if you can't, why not bring in Koulibaly to play in that centre-back position? I would rather spend that 80 million on Koulibaly to come and play next to Maguire, and then allow David De Gea to be himself in goal. I am sure we will see a better David De Gea or even a Henderson if they have got Koulibaly and Maguire ahead of them.
I think what Mike is talking about makes a lot of sense. In that aspect, then it has to be reshuffled. That defensive midfield position also has to be reshuffled. They will have to look for a defensive midfielder who is going to do the job alone.
You already have one.
Not do that. If
You've got
McTominay.
McTominay should be trusted. He can do the job.
Yes. Because but McTominay loves going forward to score goals. His appetite for goals will not really. I would want a defensive midfield like Patrick Vieira, like Roy Keane, who is actually there to sacrifice. I'm going to be the one who is going to be doing the dirty work for this team. I think they will need that one player to allow the others to go forward and play. I think that's the situation because the current ones right now, they can't make it.
Suffice to say that the goalkeeping department affects the entire football team, and that's why we've gone up the field and started talking about the defensive midfield positions, even when we're talking about a goalkeeping transfer. I think it's universal that perhaps Hugo Lloris may not be the one for Manchester United. A quick update from Manchester City, staying in the city of Manchester, where Eric Garcia is reportedly set to sign a 5-year deal at Barcelona, with the Manchester City centre-back unwilling to sign a new contract at the Etihad. The 20-year-old, who left Barca for City back in 2017 after 9 years in La Masia Academy, has struggled to play first-team football consistently this season, with Ruben Diaz, John Stones and Aymeric Laporte ahead of him in the pecking order. And I think that's a decision that makes sense because he hasn't had game time at the Sky Blues.
International break at the moment, which also means for Europe, the European World Cup qualifiers. And Gareth Bale has admitted that the 2022 World Cup could be the last opportunity for many within the current Wales setup to reach the major tournament. Wales have not qualified for the World Cup since 1958, but are set to play in the European Championships for a second straight time this summer, having reached the semi-final 5 years ago. It's now or never for Wales. Your key World Cup qualifiers tonight: Portugal will be taking on Azerbaijan, Serbia versus Republic of Ireland, France versus Ukraine, Turkey will be up against the Netherlands, and Slovenia versus Croatia.
That's all we have time for. We'll catch you tomorrow for our shortened edition of ZiFM Sport. Don't miss it. For now, may God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.